Welcome back to Faith and Practice. This is part 5 of our Biblical Theology series, and today we're going to be in Exodus. We're actually going to be taking 2 videos on this phase in Israel's history. In the second video, I want to talk about the law, the Sinai covenant, what it symbolizes and how that works. But in this video, I want to take time to talk about the tabernacle, what it symbolizes, and the problem that it actually creates. So in the last video, we saw how the promise goes to the sons of Jacob, with a special emphasis on Judah as the royal tribe. And that doesn't really fit with where we come back in Exodus. The people of God have been enslaved, and God comes to rescue them out of Egypt. And God actually goes to war against Egypt's gods. So they worship the sun, and he creates darkness. They worship the Nile and fertility, and he turns the Nile into blood, as a symbol of death. And in the story of the Passover, we get a key feature of something that's going to be very important in Israel's history, namely that the angel of death comes through and he passes over the people of Israel because they sacrifice a lamb in their place. Remember how in the story of Abraham and Isaac the same thing happened, or even how in the garden God clothed the nakedness of Adam and Eve by killing animals and covering them in skins. And he brings a people out into the desert on the way back to that promised land that he promised to Abraham, and he tells them to build a tabernacle. And the tabernacle, it's a precursor to the temple, and it's actually the first time that God, in a sense, lives on earth again. Just like he walked in the garden with Adam, he again lives among his people. And in Exodus 25:8, he says, "Let them build me a sanctuary, so that I may dwell among them." And that makes the tabernacle a restoration of Eden, a restoration of this relationship with God. And we actually have a ton of Edenic symbolism in the entire instructions for how to build the tabernacle. So, for example, Adam is told to work and guard the garden, and those are the exact same 2 words that are given to the Levites. You have the cherubim. They appear for the second time in the Bible, and they are in the Holy of Holies. They have that same guarding function, just like they guard the Garden of Eden. And in for example, the lampstand, you have branches and blossoms are described around this candlestick, right? So you have this Edenic symbolism being woven into God's dwelling place back with man. But the key difference is that there is no unrestricted access to the tabernacle. Those who come in and are unclean are struck dead. No trial, no punishment, instant. So having God living on earth is actually a huge blessing and also a huge problem. And the rest of the Pentateuch, so the first 5 books, are dedicated to answering that question of how can a holy God live among an unholy people. And that's the purpose of the Levitical code, the holiness code. That's the purpose of the stories of judgment and grumbling. It's the point of the laws. That is the unifying principle that brings together the law of Moses. And remember, we're looking for a kind of a restoration from the fall. The curses come in, and we want a restoration back to the paradisal state. And apparently, the solution is not for God to just show up and let bygones be bygones. And the entire structure of the tabernacle mirrors the problem. There's walls where the entire people are outside of the walls. There's an inner courtyard where temporary sacrifices are brought to symbolize the death that the people would need to die for their sins. There's a holy place that's restricted. And there's an innermost part. There's the Holy of Holies, which is still guarded by cherubim, just like the garden was, and it still carries a death sentence to those who enter. So Exodus is God returning to live among his people, but the entire structure of the story shows that this isn't the final stage. It's not the new paradise. It's not a full restoration of the fall. The serpent's head has certainly not been crushed yet. This is a temporary and partial fulfillment. But at the same time, it's still mercy and grace. God deciding to live with sinful people is mercy, and God is overlooking the sins. He's allowing the blood of animals to be used as a temporary covering for the sins of the people until, like Abraham knew, God will eventually provide a substitute. If you want more content like this, subscribe for more videos and check out the links to our podcast and website in the description.